Hello, Commanders, and welcome to episode number 1 of a series that will guide you through and show you how to build and trap an AFK Stonewood Endurance in Fortnite Save the World. So let us begin with an amplifier discussion. And my goal here is simple. I would like to provide you with the names of the amplifiers, the directions in which you'll be facing attacks from, and then, of course, which amplifiers to place and in what order. So, when it comes to your Homebase amplifier, you will receive attacks from the east. From here, you will place your dip amplifier. And just like the Homebase, you will also receive east attacks here. Our third amplifier to place would be the west side amp. And just as the name states, you will have attacks from the west here. Fourth, you have the drop amplifier. And we will have south and west attacks right here. And then finally, we will have our flex amplifier. And the game actually allows you to choose whether to place up on the hill, in the field, or down in the mine. And my recommendation here is simple. Please place your field amplifier and prepare for an east, south, and west set of attacks. But let's make our way back now to our home base and show you how to prepare for your east attacks. When it comes to the amplifier itself, if you do not build anything around it, that is what's known as a naked or no build amp. And this is a technique that players will utilize in order to save building structures. However, I don't recommend this. The reasoning is, this is your last layer of defense. If something goes wrong with your builds, or you happen to have a phasing husk, or enemies that work their way around and start lobbing and flinging at you, you'd want to have some protection here. It could save the day. So as such, we will build around it. Now, when it comes to the build, we're going to go ahead and recommend Tier 3 metal across the board. For our builds, every structure that we place should have purpose, value, and meaning. We don't want to overbuild. We definitely don't want to underbuild. And we want to make sure that if something goes wrong, we can easily fix the problem. So, if you have a less is more mentality, you can do just that. And then, of course, everything eventually, dependent upon where you are in your journey, should be at Tier 3. I would like to point something out, though. If you do not have the resource to go to Tier 3, just make sure your builds are all the same tier. For instance, I have Tier 3 on everything, but only Tier 1 here. If enemies sense this or notice it, they will try to attack it, whether it be on top of your builds, maybe inside of your block-offs even, but just in general, make sure everything, no matter the resource that you're using, is the same tier. It will keep them on their natural pathing throughout your builds. Also want to point out that if you knowingly and willingly leave openings or create edits where enemies will typically be pathing toward, you actually are weakening the structure here and giving the enemy a greater chance to defeat you. Or it can aggro them to attack these areas. So please be mindful. Now, I do recommend that you leave an opening initially on the south here, so that when you spawn in to your endurance to access your storm shield and begin it, right? You'll have that opening, and it makes it easier. Then what you want to do is once the endurance starts, you would go ahead and seal this down. So then the next time when you come back in, you'll still have that opening there. Also want to point out inside of your endurance, anything that you break down before you start it is gone forever. But anything that you break down or farm while it is active will respawn to you. Also, when it comes to your builds, and as I just mentioned, any builds or edits that you make beforehand will stand the test of time. Right? But anything that you place during or edit during will not. All right, so just something to think about there. And this is our home base amplifier. Okay. Now let's go out here to the field. And again, in our metal, along the natural terrain here. 1, 2, and 3. 2 here. 2 more. And 2 additional. Plus 1 across. And this is all you need to do when it comes to the actual field or spawn of the enemies. I do not recommend that you build down in this area, because it most certainly will get destroyed. Also, don't recommend spawn trapping over the spawns, because often you are wasting structures and or traps that don't even get used. So again, we want to make sure everything that we place has purpose, use, and meaning. And have everything at the proper tier. Just like this. Now, I've often heard, players mention that you should not build against natural terrain. This is simple. If you can fit through it, Husk can fit through it, and they most assuredly will. So please, if you've ever heard that advice, don't use it. All right? I like 3 builds right here as a result off of our other structure. That way, when the Husk approach, and if they're to break through or just approach in general, they won't sense a weak area over here. So I would say be mindful of it. And we do want to point it out. All right. Also, make sure when you have block-offs or areas you're trying to close off that you put a ceiling over them. Just in case you were to get a phasing Husk, for instance, they would not be able to phase through and then have free reign to throw above where they're protected. So definitely want to be covering that. If you are worried about phasing Husks, especially in this area here, you could actually throw a wall with a wall dart, believe it or not, is what I recommend, shooting across to protect you. But I've never once needed it, so I'm not going to recommend it. So, aerial perspective, what we're looking at here. Now, against natural terrain, I want you to build here like this, 3 pieces, all the way around the island. You see middle center here to the east. And then around all 3 tiles worth here. Everything in the build is metal with the exception of 1 piece, which I would have stone right here, and this will be your base placement. The reason you build around natural terrain is so that your base can spread more effectively throughout. Gives you more protection. So I do recommend that you use this technique. Can definitely benefit you when it comes to your builds. And again, everything at the appropriate tier. Just like this here. But I want you to keep where you're placing your base at tier 2. It's easier to see and recognize. All right. So that is everything against the natural terrain that we're going to have here. Now let's talk about block-offs. What is a block-off? Block-off is a floor, either a reverse 45 or edited pyramid piece, 4 walls, and a ceiling. 7 pieces for a full block-off. If you are missing any of these, it becomes a partial. And remember, if you don't put your ceilings on, if you get a phasing enemy, they are protected here and can ultimately beat you. So I'd be very careful, especially here in Stonewood where you have the extra pieces. There's no reason to leave those not covered. Now, over here, with an L shape, I want you to build just like this. And then over here against this terrain, an L shape of walls. And then we'll build around with ceilings. Just like this here. Now, when it comes to your block off, you want to be mindful of the direction of the block off. And then this will ultimately choose or allow you to make a choice on whether to use an edited pyramid piece or the reverse 45. I always recommend default of the pyramid. You just have more edit options. Okay. Now, here in the middle corner, I like 2 edits facing toward the southeast. This edit toward the east, and this one toward the south. And then we want our pyramid pieces down. And then what you want to do with your pyramid pieces that you have is face them in the same direction that you have your floors facing. And then again, everything at tier 3. And I want full block offs here, not partial. So we will finish the block offs just like this. And also make sure this over here was tier 3. And that is all the block off that you need for all 30 waves of endurance here. All right, let's come over here. Again, off that natural terrain. 2 more block off sections. Full. And your floors are edited toward the east here. And then if you happen to run out of metal for some reason, we'll just go and regather. All right. Now, when it comes to this area here, I would tell you to go ahead, match the pyramids, but I want a window on this wall and on this wall here. For your 2 block offs. And then that concludes all the block off that you need out here to the northeast area. Now, for the trap tunnel itself, what you want to do in Save the World in general is build around the natural pathing of the husks. If you impede them, bad things can happen. So just allow them to naturally move on their natural progression toward your objective to attack. All right? And then that's how you want to pretty much be building in general in Save the World. When you start blocking them off that, bad things can happen. I also like to point out, I have this thing that I call the rule of 2s. And I never recommend that you ever build more than 2 conjoining natural man-made structures in a row without having an opening. This is very, very important here. Then usually, once you get the first 2, then you go back and you stagger it a bit and just rinse and repeat. The reasoning is, when you end up building that third, husks tend to get more interested and try to create their own openings. So again, have 2 and then an opening always. The only place that this would not apply would be with natural terrain. So for instance, if you have natural terrain, that won't count. So you could go 1, 2, and theoretically 3 here, and then have your opening, right? But otherwise, I would never recommend more than 2 in a row. All right, when it comes to this area here, we're gonna have a wall and a wall, a 1/3 wall, and then I want you to edit just like this here and place it right there. And then we're going to go ahead and match our ceilings. And our edited pyramid once again, facing to the east. Just real quick, when it comes to edited structures within your trap tunnels, I never typically recommend more than a 1/3 anywhere in your build except for at the end or if you have a specialized kill box around it, and typically deeper into your trap tunnels. The reasoning is anytime that you take away with structures like this, this, or even this, right? You are significantly increasing the likelihood that you're going to get clogging in your trap tunnels. And when your trap tunnels clog, things tend to, like smashers, charge, propanes can get thrown, or sploders can stop and explode. 1/3 is nice if you're trying to make sure they don't cut the traps inside of your trap tunnel, right? But anything more than that, I don't recommend, again, unless you're at the end of your trap tunnel. And this is the only place you'll ever see this for me, honestly. And this is my finisher. And all my builds always finish this way. Okay, so we have all that going. But I do need to talk about that because it can become a problem for you. And that's all. It's 3 tiles of the trap tunnel is all you need here. Then as they work their way through, I like a full wall here, here, and out here. And then on the block off next to your opening, 1 tile up and 7 total pieces for your ceiling. And then I'll show you that here just for a second. And then we'll edit and show it from the other direction as well. Or upgrade, excuse me. And this here is all the build that you need for all waves of your Stonewood Endurance. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the traps that we're going to utilize and go over the trapping. Now, first, I'm going to start over here for just a moment. I want to talk about level of traps in Stonewood. When it comes to these traps, I often get asked, is there a difference between a 144 or a 130? Answer is no. Both will downgrade equally to 79 in Stonewood. And traps in general will do that to a point. Your 106 trap will drop to a 70. Your 77 to a 61. But your 51 and your 26 remain. So I do need to cover that because I get asked. There is not a difference between the 144 and 130 then. But you will downcraft and then eventually even out. But I just at least want to go over that for just a moment here with you. Now, what are the roles of the traps that we're going to use? The first thing I want to state is when you're coming in and you're trying to build this particular setup or anyone's in general, remember that if you ever change any of the structures, there's a chance that it's going to act differently. If you aren't standing at the proper AFK spot that I will recommend to you in the future, and actually I will do a separate build outside of the series for the material grinder or mat grinder. So you'll have that as well. But if you're not standing where you should be, you're not building the same way or utilizing the same roles on the traps that I'm providing, it can act different. I do need to go over that. I do want to point out, though, you don't need God-rolled traps to clear Stonewood Endurance. In fact, I have cleared those with level 12s. Uncommon, rare traps, I've had to follow along and make some replacements along the way, but it can be done. But when you're talking about AFK Endurance, I would try to focus on making sure the traps are God-rolled. And I would work my way eventually up to at least the point where you can get to that 130 and downcraft to the 79 because the build will work better. But if you only have those 106s early on, those 77s, so on and so forth, use what you got until you can get it a bit higher, right? Now, when it comes to my traps, some of the traps that we'll utilize, and I want you to pay attention more to the reload speeds than you do the actual roll itself. To me, there's not a best or worst or optimal when it comes to save the world. What's best or worst for you is what works best for you and the build that you're trying to put together. And as long as you have the understanding of the mechanic, you don't need the most damage in Save the World. You need the right for your build and your playstyle. And I do want to go over that here for a moment. So these rolls I'm about to give you are my rolls. I will tell you they are battle tested. They are intended for this build and modes like Frost Knight and Survive the Horde as well. They are fantastic. But they might not be the typical rolls that you see out there. All right, just want to make sure we go over that. But I promise you once again, they are battle tested, and everything, every roll that I have, every use that I make has purpose, use, and meaning to it. All right, we will utilize 2 different ceiling drop traps. All right, we will have a crit rating, crit damage, damage, reload speed, and durability. Our second, or stagger, will be the crit rating, 2 reload speed, a damage, and durability. For our ceiling electric field, we will have a crit rating, crit damage, damage, reload speed, and durability roll. Our gas trap will also have that same roll, but when it comes to the effect duration, you do not need to go over rare here. There's not a great benefit to having epic or legendary, and I would never go over 1 reload when it comes to the ceiling gas trap. The ceiling zapper. Crit rating, crit damage, damage, reload speed, and durability for my primary. And then for my finisher, I like 2 damage, 2 reload speed, and a durability. My wall darts. Crit rating, crit damage, damage, reload speed, and durability. And then my stagger would be crit rating, 2 reload speeds with damage and durability. My wall dynamo has crit rating, crit damage, damage, reload speed, and durability. Our anti-air trap will have 2 range, 2 reload, and 2 durability. And I actually do not recommend damage on this trap as it's extremely niche. But overall, I would go this route. The healing pad, I have 2 healing amount, 2 reload speed, 2 durability. Often with the healing pad, your healing amount gets wasted. You will cap off quickly, especially if you are using it for burst. As such, I am willing to sacrifice a 3rd healing amount and instead go with durability, and I want to make sure I have a fast reload speed on it. All right? Just something I like with my playstyle. When it comes to sound walls, I have 2 different options. I have my medium speed and my slower speed. I actually have a fast speed as well, but in this case, we'll just use the medium and the slow. And the rolls here are 3 durability, 2 reload speed with effect duration, but my medium speed will have 1 epic perk for one of the reloads, and the other will have 2 epic perk setups for both reload speeds. That way, we can get it to 6.8 for the medium speed and 7.1 for the slower. When it comes to our tar pit trap, I have my primary, which is 2 reload, 3 durability. And then I have a 4 durability, 1 reload for my secondary. And then sometimes I will use an anchor that just has full durability without reload speed. The wall spikes, 2 different options. All right. We have crit builds on them, which would be, and more like a DPS style build, I guess you could say. Crit rating, double crit damage with damage, no reload here. All right, not an option. But I have 2 different 6 perks. Typically on my walls, heals attached building will go on the inside of my walls. Increase build health on the outside. Now, you cannot use the same 6 perk when it comes to that increased build health or heals attached building on the same side of the wall. It won't stack that way. But you can, once again, use increased build health on one side and heals attached on the other, and they will work together. When it comes to the wooden floor spikes, full durability with heals attached building on it. And then the defender post. Now let's go ahead and we're going to start with our amplifier because we're standing right next to it. For the amp, I'm going to go with 1 anti-air trap facing to the east. And on the back, in case I need healing, I want a healing pad. For darts, I'm going with my 1 reload speed dart, front to back. And that's going to be or east to west. And that'll be the case throughout the entire build. And then any wall dart that I use side to side will be that stagger or the 2 reload right here. And when it comes to the amplifier, that's what we will have. Now let's work our way out into the field. And I'm going to continue now with our 1 reload wall darts. And for any wall, once again, that's front to back or east to west, I will place that particular wall dart. With the exception of this wall right here. I don't want it here. Everywhere else, I want that 1 reload wall dart front to back. And that's throughout your entire build now. All right, just like this. I'll walk you through one more time. There you have it. Then what we're going to do is the walls that are going side to side for the dart, we're going to go with the stagger or the 2 reload. And again, reload speed is extremely important in Fortnite Save the World and not often spoke about. But when you understand this and you start using different reload speeds, hence why you need more than one of most traps in the game, right? It can be something else and it can really change the game for you. So again, anything side to side, we want to stagger with that 2 reload. And then all the way down here. For the wall darts. Now, let's talk about our wall spikes and the heals attached option. I want you to come over here to this corner section of the L-shaped block off that you had. And I want one of those heals attached wall spikes because all we are concerned about is the 6 perk here. Typically unlocks to you at level 25 on the trap or 69. But we're going to go ahead and place that on the inside of these 2 walls here. Now, if your traps aren't that strong or aren't God rolled like mine, I would also come in on these 2 walls here and do the same thing. Well, that's only if you're not using the same traps that I have or for some reason. right? Or that level. It can benefit you a bit. Have a little extra strength there. And just make sure when you seal that everything's tier 3 once again, and all of your structures are matching the direction they originally started at, right? And I do like to show this as an example. If you go too quick, you can mess things up on yourself. Right? This takes care of all of those areas. And then on our block offs here and here, same thing on the back side of these two walls. Make sure too, when you're in, just touch all the walls once again. Make sure everything's at the proper tier. Those are your wall spikes. Now, if durability is a concern for you, where these two wall darts are right here, you can instead, you already have the heals attached on the inside. On the outside, you can use your increased build health here. If for some reason you have durability concerns or you're worried or having issues with the block off here, just another option for you. The sound wall. Let's go ahead and build 2 windows and a ceiling here. With windowed walls, your darts can shoot through. However, you can sacrifice your outer darts here. You can have a 2-windowed wall. Be mindful though, if the green light doesn't trigger, it won't fire. And again, you could lose darts. Or you have your 1/3 wall that shoot over. I tend to, in endurance builds now especially, I like this wall, understanding I'm sacrificing a couple darts to get more wall strength in case something were to go wrong in my trap tunnel, and I can preserve this wall, especially if I have a trap on it. Just want to go over that for a minute. So here, we're going to tier this up. And that's off that natural terrain build that we had earlier. And we're going to be going with our medium and slow speed sound wall here. Now, with this sound wall, I'll start with the medium speed, or the one reload that has epic perk. We're going to go here on the outside of that wall, here on the inside here, and then I'm going to do one tile, skip it here, and skip this tile. And then what we're going to have is the slow one with the 2 epic reload speeds here and here. One thing about endurance is you're going to have consistent pathing occurring here. And what's going to happen is, especially if you have 2 sound walls within a 1x1 section, they could theoretically fire at the same time. When they fire at the same time, you will only receive the effects of one. But if you have consistent pathing after that first strike, they will be on different reloads. So they'll be working on different times. Very important that you're not using the same reload speed, especially with a build like this or in a situation like this as a result. Just a little tip for you there on that. Now, sometimes with that trap, if you have the fast or full legendary option, right, it can actually fire too fast on you and the husks aren't affected as well. There was a time where the recommendation would be never to go over uncommon or your second bar here with your first reload speed. And then you work your way up, and that's where they spoke about rainbowing. But through my most recent testing, when I would do that, there would be times where that trap wouldn't fire at all whatsoever in time. Right? It just wouldn't fire when I needed it to. So it was too slow almost. And then overall, same thing with the rarer bit. So I just decided to go ahead with the epic, and this has been working perfect for me now. And it's up to date. So again, playstyle choice, to each is their own. Use what works best for you or what you believe in. I do stand by that. Use what you believe in, what makes sense to you in your journey. But that covers your entire southeast side. Out here in the field, of course. And then up and above out here. Now the ceilings here. With the understanding that direction matters. Okay. And also understanding that this trap doesn't necessarily do as much damage as you might think it does. It's actually one of the worst damaging traps in Save the World, but it's the mechanic that makes it so great and the movement it provides, right? Or the stagger or slowing effect, depending on how you place them. So the one reload speed, I'll have one facing to the north here, over my back shoulder. So it's pushing toward the north. This area here, it'll go straight back. So we're pushing and then back. And then as they come up this way, we're going to go again, facing to the north. So it drops down, rolls, and pushes back out this way. Then we're going to skip, and we're going to stagger with the 2 reload speed over our back shoulder, away from the opening, pushing back this way. Then splitting the difference to help a little bit with your durability and just some additional damage, we're going to go with our electric field, just like this. And that'll cover your ceiling traps. Now, whenever you start any kind of trapping process, when we're speaking about tunnels and tunneling in general, this is something that I often see overlooked. Right? We have our wooden floor spikes, and we want full durability. Once again, one of the worst damaging traps in Save the World. However, and I want to put exclamation points at the end of that. To me, and when people ask me, and I don't typically use best or worst, I truly do not. But when somebody asks me what my favorite trap or what the best trap in Save the World is, to me, and without question, the wooden floor spikes is an S-tier trap. And if anybody said otherwise, I would fully disagree with it. Okay? The reasoning is it's not the damage once again. Remember, we don't need the most damage. We need the right damage. It's all about the mechanic here. Right? Yes, you receive damage as the enemies walk across it. No doubt about it. And you get some snare even. But why it's so valuable is you get 1, 2, and believe it or not, another half tile worth of slowing effect, which then allows all of your traps to work better and works better off the reload speeds that you have. This trap, you can actually go back to back to back all the way through your trap tunnels. Truly, you can. And I often think it's quite smart to do so. Or you can actually forget about these 2 tiles, remove them, and start the process over again here at the 2.5 tile mark, or at that other half tile mark over here, right? Or I guess we could say it this way, right? Start over here. So you could go again with it. It's a good way to save tiles, especially as you move further out. And then when you restart that process, again, the snare and damage, and then it's 1, 2.5 out. But in this scenario here, we're going to go with a tar pit now. I have 3 tar pits that I utilize. I have my primary, which is 2 reload speed, full durability. My secondary, 1 reload speed. And believe it or not, I have an anchor that I use sometimes too if I'm going to go 3 in a row. And I will place that right here. If for some reason your traps aren't rolled like mine, if you want a little extra stoppage here, just put you go with an anchor potentially here. And then again, after you drop your anchor, you can start the process over with your wooden floor spikes. Do note that every trap, or excuse me, husk that crosses this trap will take a durability from it. Everyone, whether they're stuck or not. Often I will see these traps utilized to start out or at the very beginning of trap tunnels. Same thing with the floor freeze trap that you notice we're not even using here, and I don't actually recommend. These traps can cause clogging of your trap tunnels. So to me, it's very important you utilize them at the end of your trap tunnels or in the heart of them if you have higher smasher intake coming through. But please always remember that if you start the process with this, all of your other traps become better. So when you hear about hate when it comes to the flame girl trap, for instance, or the retractable floor spikes. Most of the time, when that information is being given, this trap isn't used before, or those traps are not being placed in areas where they are most effective. So it's a technique type thing at that point. All items in Save the World have purpose, use, and meaning if you use them correctly. Just something to think about when we talk about traps as well. Now, when it comes to our ceiling here, I like the ceiling gas trap. All right. I really, really do like it here. Remember with the ceiling gas trap, you either want the wooden floor spike underneath it or the effects of that wooden floor spike underneath it, right? Or a tar pit or freeze under it. Please do not put a gas trap without one of those traps underneath it. Something to think about, but I like the gas right there. And then the enemies will work their way through, and this is my finisher area here. Now, if a smasher comes in here, typically they stop at the corner. They start hitting here and then here. Or if they are to charge, the tar pit would catch it. Okay. On the back of this reverse pyramid here, I like a heals attached floor spike for the 6 perk on the back for that passive healing, right? So that's important to have here. On the 2 ceilings now, we have the ceiling zapper. Again, this is a single enemy trap. Should be utilized only at the end of your trap tunnels or next to the core of your builds. And I have 2 recommendations here. I have your primary, which would be that full crit build with 1 reload speed. And believe it or not, impact can actually cause knockback, even though the trap does not say it does. I do see at times it will knock enemies back. So for me, I always make sure that I have this with direction in mind. And I'm going to place this one over my back shoulder, forcing into the wall that I have, the hole here. And if it does knock them back, right, it could open this up a little bit more for us and allow for smoother pathing if you need it. And then I always come in with a 2 reload finisher. And I face it the opposite direction. Again, when they come out, if it hits and moves them over a little bit, slows it down a little. I love this combination here. Again, to each is their own with your rolls. But you have your 1 reload first with more damage, and then we have a faster, more pure damage option at the end to finish. It's a very nice combo to have. Now, through here, where we had those windowed walls, we have 2 of them off the block off. I want that 2 reload or stagger wall dart shooting through here. This will help you if you have any phasing husks, and it will shoot through and hit here. And then, if all goes according to plan, I like a wall dynamo here for a little extra damage. It helps at the end of the tunnel. Also be reminded that you could have a wall dart, and if you're going front to back, then it'd be your 1 reload or east to west here, if you're worried about anything phasing through the build. But this here is your home base amplifier build, step by step, build by build, and trap by trap for your Stonewood AFK Endurance.